we have 3.5-month breathing, and that can progress to lots of things, which would be this anti-extension and anti-flexion goal. We have Eldoa L5S1, which should be very, very comfortable because this person is probably biased towards flexion, not extension. We can throw a foam roller in their upper back. We can throw it perpendicular to the spine, and we can work extension there, so we can get some extension above and below. I'm moving into quadruped position 2, thoracic extension in high quadruped. So your arms, elbows, getting really close, and then kind of letting gravity pull the thoracic spine towards the ground to drive some extension. We can get on that position. We can look at even prone on elbows, quadruped on elbows, lock out thoracic, and let's get some bent leg raises. Bent leg raises versus straight leg, I think they're both going to be useful, but with that bent leg position, we're going to get rectus to be tensioned as you extend through the hip. And you might find that these individuals do not extend very far in their hip, but you're going to keep the pain out of their back, and then you can jump in with some contract relax, some other types of manual therapy, even if it's just overpressure. Hey, going back to position 1, leg lock bridge is another very useful extension through the hip without extension through the spine. I think that's where this patient is really going to land. They need to sequence extending through the hip with high levels of tension, and then secondly extend through the spine if that's what the movement calls for. If they don't need to extend through the spine and keep neutral, well, then that should be coached as well. I think this is a stability and motor control deficit. That's what I'm starting with, but we can still use high tension mobility strategies to double and intervene with the same approach. Eldoa T6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9. These are lower thoracic, if you will. Certainly not the lowest, but I'll find that these can be very, very useful, especially 6, 7, to drive some thoracic extension. Half kneeling hips. Ankles were not a problem. She could bury a squat. And then standing, especially when we get into dynamics, reverse lunge, overhead reach, where you're going to get extension on one hip while you're getting extension through the upper back. Do you extend through the lumbar spine? I think you can, not if it hurts. So this might be a very classic joint by joint where you just need thoracic and hips to move relatively more than lumbar. Doesn't mean the lumbar isn't supposed to extend. I gave you all the evaluation models. Her back does not hurt when she does a prone press up. I got to look away from the spine here. And a lot of this, falls into joint by joint. Again, the only way you're ever going to know any of this if you choose some evaluation model that looks at the whole body, that looks at regional, looks at interregional, but also values local. Could I have treated the lumbar spine itself? I did a little bit. We didn't get much response. I'm not going to, break out heavy artillery on day 1, and especially in this case, it would not be appropriate. But when we see prone press up not have pain, that takes me a little bit away from getting them out of pain. I don't remember asking what their objective pain scale number was, but I'm sure it wasn't a lot. This wasn't a person who was in significant agony. They just don't like how their back feels. That would make sense with what MRI said. That would make sense with what the original episode, the provocative episode was, and it would make sense with how they move. So that's going to be our approach. And then my instructions are pick and choose. If I was going to be with them, we would try as few as possible and see where this lands. I think the hips are going to be more a factor than the thoracic, but I don't know that to be true yet. And we'll start to see. If it is thoracic, it's going to be 6 through 9 that gets us more value rather than the more traditional 4x4 stuff that I mentioned, such as high quadruped, thoracic extension, foam roller in your back, etc. That's it. And I think it was really silly that somebody said this was a torn disc. I really have no explanation other than what I am providing, which is what I hopefully, with both respect and empathy, describe to the patient. But they just want their back to feel better. Now, next piece, or maybe the piece even before those special exercises, let's press off of one knee. Let's really learn how to tuck, how to zipper up the quads, how to push through the feet. So we're in that standing plank position for our overhead work. Pressing off of one knee, though, it kind of feels weird to extend through the spine. Let's press off the floor. Let's press, without a significant arch. I'm not a huge fan of putting your feet up on the bench. There's other exercises that we can do if you really insist on having that hook line position. Yeah, that's really where we're going with this. If this person, I can't tell them to do this, but anti-inflammatories might be, part of this just to kind of clear it out, if you will. The torn disc business made this really, really challenging and maybe worthy of discussion. Everything clinical, for some of us listening, maybe that's no big deal. There's a little bit of duh to this. but this person should be, respected, and all of the factors that are contributing to their pain. I truly believe that there was functional anxiety because of the language and the confusion and just not getting better, over a very, very long period of time. So hopefully that all makes sense. So we got a couple key things here. Again, different values of the MRI, but really evaluating the whole body and trying to look at different patterns. Remember the 4 rules. Number 1, change positions. You're looking at the same patterns, but change positions. Eliminate joints. Change the stabilization demands, and active versus passive. I think when you can do those things, you'll probably find different categories of things that really should work. That takes me to hit you up here I'm always thankful that you're watching, but I am going to hit you over the head right here. When you can do an evaluation like that, whatever you call it, what I do, it doesn't matter. You can do it different, but I think if you use those 4 principles, you've got great categories, and then choose the exercises or therapies that fit those categories. That's how T=R the shoulders mapped out. If this goes over well, we'll just do every exercise I know, and then I'll keep doing it over when I learn more exercises. It's the categories and the organization of those categories that I think you're going to value on T=R the shoulder just as much as the uniqueness of some of the exercises. So sign up on that interest list. At the time of filming, we've already done 2 of the mini seminars. There'll be another 2 coming depending when this one goes live. Hopefully you'll get on the list and you'll be able to check out T=R the shoulder before anybody, best price, most bonuses, lots of good things. So hopefully you can check that out and see how that evaluation process can work for you.